Phuong An Boen Bak, heir to the House of Boen Bak, one of the wealthiest families in the Am-Ean Empire and a student at the Imperial Magic Academy, a prosperous family known for its profound, unshakable academic prowess. But Phuong An was incredibly greedy. No one could match his avarice and obsession with money. During the Am-Ean Imperial Academy's debate competition, the grand prize for the winner was a masterpiece elixir. Phuong An loudly declared, "I hereby proclaim that there is nothing more valuable in this world than money." And from that day on, people started calling him the Money Hound. This money-crazed maniac, Phuong An, was enjoying himself as usual, receiving a report from the merchant guild his family runs. The moment he held the paper, he asked, "So how much did we make this month?" If an employee reported that the earnings were less than the previous month, they were in for a world of hurt. Phuong An would wrap the heads of those who failed to meet his expectations. It was a perfectly normal day for him, as they say. Tragedy often strikes when we least expect it. Phuong An was walking in the courtyard, grumbling, "When are these people ever going to do work worthy of their pay?" Yai looked at the report and said, "Hasn't he been doing better?" Phuong An was still not satisfied. "He has gotten better, but—" Suddenly, he looked up at the sky. Something seemed unusual. On a clear day, without a single drop of rain, Phuong An was struck by lightning. As his consciousness faded from the shock, a strange soul took the opportunity to possess his body. The moment it saw him, it exclaimed, "Whoa, what's this?" Phuong An, surprised, asked, "Who are you?" It laughed and said, "So this is who I'm about to possess, huh?" He was a bit confused. "Possess, what are you talking about?" While that soul rambled on about things he couldn't understand, Phuong An's instincts realized it was trying to steal his body. He used what little mana he had left to attack the intruder. Phuong An clenched his fist and punched it. The being cried out, "What that hurts, help me!" Although the soul was easily defeated, Phuong An had absorbed a part of it in that moment. Unfamiliar memories flooded his mind. Phuong An felt like lightning was coursing through his brain. He shot up abruptly. Yi anxiously asked, "Young master, are you all right?" And Phuong An saw strange text appear before his eyes. It was a prophecy of the world's end. "The end is near. 72 demons will rise again and bring ruin to the world. The descendant of the founding emperor, Ain Am-Ean will, Phuong An Boen Bak, heir to the ducal house of Boen Bak, will be exiled from his family for collaborating with. He will lose all his money and become homeless." Seeing him sitting there, stunned, Yi called out loudly, "Young master! Young master!" The prophecy pointed to a future worse than death for Phuong An Boen Bak, heir to the ducal house of Boen Bak. Will be exiled from the family for collaborating with... He was terrified. What, me exiled and lose all my money? What the hell is this? After that day, he tried every way he could to find out about that strange soul. Why did it try to possess him? And why did he receive those memories? In the end, he found nothing. But one thing was certain, the prophecy was real. It was 100% accurate, at least for now. Because of this, he could use the prophecy to make a profit. However, he wasn't happy. After all, if it was real, his downfall was also drawing nearer. So he had to be absolutely sure that these words were true. Phuong An returned home after his classes. Yi asked him, "How was school, sir?" He gave a curt reply, "Same as always." Yi hung his master's coat on the rack and offered, "Would you like some coffee?" Phuong An reached for the newspaper on the table and replied, "Yes." Yi saw him staring at the paper, searching for news. "Where's the news about the academy?" Yi thought for a moment, then asked, Young master, have you been feeling unwell lately?" Phuong An denied it. "No, why?" Yi continued, "I feel like you've been more worried than usual." Surprised, he turned and asked, "Since when?" I replied, "For about half a year now, sir. Sometimes you seem to have your head in the clouds. I call you several times and you don't answer. Other times you make very impulsive decisions, even though you're normally so careful and meticulous about everything. Are you sure it's not a complication from being struck by lightning?" He really is observant, Phuong An thought, trying to find an excuse for those strange choices. They all brought in a profit, didn't they? What complications? Suddenly, he saw a short article about Ain Am-Ean, the heir to the throne. He really did enroll in the academy. Yi suddenly asked, "Do you have another source of information, sir?" Before he could finish his sentence, Phuong An quickly left. "I'm heading to the south side for a bit." Yi wondered, "What about your coffee?" The Imperial Academy was located on an island called Bazian. The environment was mostly artificial, created by magic. The southern part of the island was a waterfront area. He rode a horse to this area to scout it out. He thought to himself, this way I can confirm the accuracy of the prophecy. Among the prophecies, 3 things were seared into his brain. First, the future where Phuong An, the Boenbak, is exiled from the family. Second, the future where Phuong An Boenbak doesn't have a single penny to his name. And third, the future where Phuong An Boenbak. These things made Phuong An extremely panicked. He spurred his horse on, muttering, "No, no." He rethought it once more. First, the future that awaited Phuong An Boenbak. Second, the 72 demons that Konomo had summoned would rise again. Third, the future where Ain Amian saves the world from the demons. Ain Amian, a name known to everyone in the empire, a descendant of the founding emperor Kalanoser Amian. The Amian family had built the Amian Empire with 5 neighboring kingdoms, but after 1,000 years, that family had lost its power. The prophecy only said that Ain Amian was the main character. After passing the entrance exam, Ain headed for the southern wetlands instead of returning home. The reason he enrolled was to find the map that the founding emperor had left behind. Since the details surrounding such matters came from the novel I read after enrolling, if he acts exactly according to the prophecy, it's the best way to verify it. He's not just the focal point of the prophecies, but he's also directly connected to my own dark future. There seems to be a detail about someone giving Phuong An expulsion documents. Phuong An stopped his horse and observed his surroundings. He was worried about something even worse. I don't know why Ain Amian hates me. I couldn't read the entire prophecy. He never had a favorable impression of Phuong An Boenbak because parts of the prophecy were blurred out, so I could only get a general idea of the events. You can't see the details. According to the document on relationships, I joined forces with the demons. That makes no sense at all. Joining forces with demons. Phuong An searched thoroughly. He must be around here somewhere. Ain is looking for a hidden dungeon in the wetlands because the founding emperor left behind a sword containing the ego of the empire's first royal knight. Dan Fan Passen is here. He calculated if the prophecy is accurate, then he will be the perfect candidate to save the world. A true hero. Suddenly, Phuong An smirked. If it weren't for that important role, I would have killed him already. How dare that bastard take all my money? Suddenly, he detected a strange smell. This smell is blood. A thought flashed through Phuong An's mind. I remember that he was injured by a Crodoc while searching for the dungeon. It makes sense. Even though he's destined to become a hero, he's still a novice right now. An apex predator like that is a bit too much for him. Phuong An followed the trail of blood to a small cave. He wondered, is this the entrance to the dungeon? Phuong An moved closer. The events were still following the prophecy. He was about to go inside to check, thinking to himself, let's see if Ain is still... But suddenly he froze. Ain walked out from the other side, his stomach covered in a large bloodstain. Phuong An was inwardly surprised. Why is he out here? Did I get here too early? Let's just act like this is a coincidence. He put on a serious face and warned him, Ain Amian, new students are not allowed here. Ain asked, puzzled, you don't know who I am? Phuong An retorted, is there anyone in this empire who doesn't know you? He then asked politely, my apologies, but you are... The man replied, Phuong An. Ain was startled and blurted out, Phuong An Boenbak. Phuong An put on a cold expression and snapped, a bit too casual, don't you think I'm a year above you? He quickly corrected himself. Right. My apologies, Senior Boenbak. He feigned ignorance and asked, were you injured by a lizard man? Ain answered honestly, it was a Crodoc. Phuong An acted surprised. A Crodoc? Those are hard to come by. You're really unlucky. He tossed him a potion. This is a high-grade potion. It's definitely more effective than 10 low-grade potions. Ain exclaimed, high-grade. Phuong An noticed he wasn't using honorifics. Phuong An snapped, Senior Boenbak. He froze for a moment, then explained, I don't have any money. Phuong An replied nonchalantly, I don't need money. Your family may no longer have the power it once did, but I'm quite sure you'll become a talented person. Since you carry the blood of the founding emperor, consider this an investment in you. Ain was slightly surprised. He thought to himself, Phuong An Boenbak doesn't seem to be some love-crazed fool. He seems like a better person than I thought. Ain then replied, thank you, Senior. But in reality, Phuong An's heart was bleeding. That thing was expensive. If it weren't for the prophecy, there's no way I would have coughed it up. He changed the subject. You should consider yourself lucky. When I was a new student, anyone who got caught was punished immediately. I'm being lenient with you. Understand? As expected, Ain felt incredibly grateful. Yes, Senior Bonebuck. Fuang An said, All right, see you later. He bowed his head. Thank you. I will repay you. Fuang An pretended to leave, but then he hid nearby to observe him still regretting the precious potion. Ain drank the potion I gave him and went inside. After waiting a moment, I followed him in as well. Fuang An looked around and muttered, I was still skeptical, but there really is a dungeon here. I don't see anything. Ain must have cleared it all out. He reached for a lamp, wondering to himself, but why can't I sense any trace of mana, even though there are so many magic lamps here? Fonan observed for a moment and realized it was absorbing mana from the environment. An eternal magic lamp. Did he really just leave this stuff behind? Good heavens, does he have any idea how valuable this is? I get the feeling Ain is so naive and clueless, completely different from the prophecy's description. Is it really okay to entrust the future to him? According to the prophecy, Ain was injured when he entered the dungeon. Not only that, he was struggling after falling from the entrance. Ain gritted his teeth, his entire body aching, so he drank all the potions he had. And yet the wounds didn't heal due to their severity and the fact that the potions were only low grade. Even so, he pushed onward. It was instinct that drove him forward. A sword was embedded in an altar. A long sword that looked unremarkable, and yet he couldn't take his eyes off it. Its call echoed in his mind, speaking to his very soul as Ain took hold of the sword. A brilliant light enveloped the dark room. When Ain opened his eyes, he was no longer in the dungeon, but in an alley at the Fonan Academy. He suddenly noticed a faint mark on the stone pedestal, but there was indeed a trace of magic left. This must have been where the sword was. Ain's disappearance proves the prophecy is accurate, which also means Fonan remembered the prophecy concerning his own fate. Here are the expulsion documents. Everything that the head of the Bellenbuck family has granted you along with everything you have acquired under the Bonebuck name will no longer be in your possession. Not one thing. The family head said, Don't ever appear before me again, and no, don't appear before anyone at all. This is the greatest mercy I can offer you. And that was the undeniable truth. Fonan clutched his head, groaning, I'm going to be left with nothing. He gritted his teeth and growled, What the hell kind of future is this? 2. Ain Amian, the protagonist acknowledged by the Book of Prophecy, the hero chosen by destiny to protect the world from evil, and the man who's going to ruin me. Fonan sat at his desk, calculating. Still, Ain is a rising stock. I should probably jump in and invest in him. I should be wagging my tail for him like a dog. But the Ain described in the prophecy is completely different from the current one. He's the type of person who values honor more than wealth. If I'm not careful, this could backfire. Fonan suddenly imagined Ain's fury. He would surely order a shameless scoundrel trying to bribe me with money. Eliminate him immediately. I have no idea how to approach him. This is so difficult, Fonan sighed. Hearing this, Tu immediately asked, Is something difficult, sir? Fonan said, To imagine there's a merchant guild that is guaranteed to do well if it's invested in. What would you do? He placed his coffee cup on the table and replied, I would invest right away without hesitation. Fonan wondered, But what if the guild's principles don't align with yours? Tu replied with a serious look, Why would that be a problem? Don't you always say, young master, that without money you can't afford to have principles anyway? Fonan realized Tu was right. He had been so preoccupied with demons and the fate of the world, but the core principle remained the same. Invest, manage the risk, and reap the huge reward. A difference in personality means nothing in the face of enormous profits. Still, I need more concrete information on Ain. He stood up abruptly, grabbed his cloak, and walked out. I'm going to meet him now. Tu hurriedly asked, Meet who, sir? But you're expecting a visitor. He sighed, a look of utter helplessness on his face. It was the same yesterday. Where on earth does he run off to? At the academy, dorms are assigned based on entrance exam rankings. Ranks 1 to 10 are placed in the top-tier Radivius S building. Ranks 11 to 30 are in the Bele's building. And the rest from 31 down are the dregs of society. Ayan was assigned to the Debester building. The ego of Gnan Fan Passen, who resides within Ain's sword, was incredibly frustrated and yelled out, A descendant of Amian is at this academy. An Amian in the Debester building instead of Bele's or Radivius. Unbelievable. If he were still alive, he'd crawl out of his grave and strangle every last one of them like a demon. Hearing this, Ain asked in surprise, Why are you suddenly talking about demons? He replied, because how else could something so absurd happen unless demons were interfering? Ain felt like he was being criticized. "What can you do?" Ain said.
I'm here.
"Because I'm weak." The ego of Gnanfan Pasan roared. "A descendant of Amian? Weak? How is that possible?" Ain suddenly commented, "To be honest, the first emperor is also partly at fault." "What?" he exclaimed. Ain explained, "Just think about it. He abolished the system of succession and changed it to an electoral system where the emperor is chosen from 7 elector families. He also donated our territory and wealth to the empire. For the past century, the throne has belonged to other families, the territory is no longer ours, and the Amian family has been in decline. We've even lost a portion of our secret sword arts. Even though I'm technically an elector prince, I haven't even properly learned our swordsmanship." Nan let out a cough. "Ahem, despite that you still have talent, Ain. I will support you with everything I have. So that you may reclaim the glory of the Amians, perhaps the late emperor foresaw this. That must be why he left me to you." Suddenly a voice called from outside. "Is Ain Amian in there?" He was surprised, wondering who could be here to see me. Ain asked who it was. The person outside replied, "Your senior." Ain thought for a moment. "A senior?" He went to open the door. "No way is that—" Seeing Fonan Ain was a bit surprised and asked, "What brings you here?" Fonan smiled. "Are you busy?" He replied, "No, nothing urgent." Fonan quickly suggested, "Then could I have a moment of your time?" He noticed that the hallway outside was very crowded with people. He then said, "It's a bit crowded here, let's go somewhere quieter." Ain blurted out, "Right now, give me 10 minutes, I just need to get ready." Fonan put on a strict face and lectured him, "You're going to make your precious senior wait out here for a whole 10 minutes back in my day, even if I was asleep. If a senior called, I would have had to run out even in my underwear. New students are so pampered these days." Ain quickly corrected himself. 5 minutes, I'll get ready and be right out in 5 minutes, sir." Fonan patted his junior's shoulder. "I'll let it slide this time. I'll wait in front of the dormitory." The door slammed shut. Gatner exploded in a fit of rage, roaring, "What the hell is with that condescending bossy prick?" Ain explained, "That's Fon and Bowen Park, the eldest son of the Bowen Park family." Gatner scowled, his voice laced with annoyance. "Bowen Park? You mean that family of nouveau riche? Who do those people with nothing but money think they are ordering a royal descendant around like that? Has the world gone mad?" As he changed his shirt, Ain wondered, what could he want? Surely he's not here to ask for the money for that potion, is he? He did say it was an investment. And Fonan was waiting for Ain in the grand hall. He asked, "You brought your sword with you?" He scratched his head and explained, "Ah, yes. I feel calmer when I have my sword in hand. I swear I don't mean anything by it." Fonan seemed to understand. "I get it. Most knights can't stand to be parted from their swords anyway." In his mind, he thought, that sword must be the very ego of an Eon Amian. Ain suddenly asked, "So Fon-An, why did you want to see me?" He answered slowly, "It's nothing special. Yes, I just wanted to grab a meal with you." Ain exclaimed, "A meal?" Fon-An nodded. "Mm-hmm. Order whatever you want." Ain waved his hand, saying, "No, really, I'm fine. Besides, this place is really expensive." Fon-An frowned and pulled out his old trick again. "You're not allowed to refuse a senior. Back in my day." Ain quickly complied. "Yes, sir, I'm looking right now." The two of them looked at the menu to choose. Fon-An silently assessed him. Naive and a pushover. How on earth did I get shoved aside by a kid like this? The more I think about it, the more humiliating it feels. Just then, Ain looked at the prices on the menu and broke out in a cold sweat. Everything was extortionately priced. Fon-An suddenly asked, "Ain, do you have any goals you want to achieve?" "Besides graduating." Being asked something like that so suddenly by his senior, Ain was a little taken aback. He looked up and said, "Yes." Fon-An stated bluntly, "Most people come to the academy to build connections, but your family avoids social gatherings, under the pretext that the House of Amian needs to be re-established. That's why I find it strange that you enrolled." Ain replied in a low voice, "I'm tired of being seen as part of a fallen royal family. Even if it's in name only, Amian is still a royal house." Hearing that tone, Fon-An paused. Well, Ain declared, "I will become a royal knight. And I will restore my family's honor." Fon-An realized the look in his eyes was completely different when he spoke of his dream. He has a strong will and a hunger to achieve his goal. He lowered his head and gave a brief reply. I see. So have you decided what you want yet? A.N. snapped back to his usual self. Just a moment, please. The Amians are incredibly proud of their lineage. It seems A.N. isn't as much of a pushover as he appears. Fonan changed the subject again. A.N., do you have any dietary restrictions? He replied, Not really. He asked again, So what's your megabit? A.N. was a little confused. Megabit, going home right after eating. Phone, and thought to himself, I'm starting to get a rough idea of what kind of person A.N. Am-Ian is. I was originally planning to butter him up and then lure him in with a sponsorship. It's a good thing I didn't try that. Fonan began analyzing the A.N. Am-Ian stock from his appearance and potential to his intellect and assets. Noteworthy characteristics: extremely proud of his family, confident, and values honor. Points to note: gets flustered easily when looked down upon. Best suited for a long-term investment. Profile: a top-tier asset for surviving the end of the world. If I just threw money in his face now, it would wound his pride. With this type of person, a gentle, emotional approach is better framed as doing him a favor. I need to slowly build trust, gradually embedding myself in his life. If I'm patient, when the time comes, he'll seek me out on his own. When that time comes, one tug on the line and I'll land a massive golden fish. I'm going to make him my ally and then drain him of everything he's worth. Yi suddenly entered the room. He asked, Young master, you've returned. Where have you been, sir? Fonan replied nonchalantly. Just meeting an acquaintance? Yi asked curiously. Was it Buchep, sir? Fonan was puzzled. Buchep? Why are you suddenly mentioning him? The attendant reminded him. Luina Buchep. He came today to discuss the matter of the debt, sir. Fonan suddenly remembered. That was today? Yi sighed. If I had known you would be returning late, sir, I would have sent him away. I told him to wait, but after 3 hours, she left. Buchep probably thinks you stood her up to make her lose heart. Fuang An reached for his coffee cup and replied calmly, The more discouraged, the better. It took so much effort to tie them down, so we have to hold them tight. Suddenly, he felt dizzy. Fuang An clutched his head and cried out. Tu asked worriedly, Young master, are you all right? He replied, I'm fine, just a sudden headache. Strange lines of text suddenly appeared in Fuang An's mind. He was utterly astonished. This is a prophecy, and it's the part I couldn't read before. How did it suddenly appear now? Her brown hair like a drifting cloud. Her aquamarine eyes are only enough to describe a fraction of that girl. Her sword strokes are exquisite, beautiful, and noble, and more vibrant than anyone else's. A.N. was captivated by that dance. Under the moonlight, she is surely talented enough to become a royal knight, but there is a shadow in her heart. If those chains are broken, she will be able to spread her wings and fly free. Those chains... I want to free her from the house of Bonebuk. Isn't that Luina Buchep? Fuang An wondered, is that why A.N. resents me? He clutched his head and swore, Damn it. Two standing before him froze upon hearing this. Fuang An quickly explained, No, I wasn't talking about you. Luina Buchep was waiting in the lobby below. She thought to herself, Fuang An Bonebuk intentionally stood me up yesterday, and now he's summoning me again. I'm the one who's anxious because of the debt. Luina wondered, is he trying to crush me? Fuang An stood behind, observing the girl for a moment. He felt that just from looking at her back, he could tell how uncomfortable she was. The Buchep countship was originally a Margraviate. They were once a powerful family that protected the northern front lines of the empire, one of the 7 elector families. But after being swept by a wave of giant monsters, their solid legacy collapsed and their glory vanished. To rebuild the family, the Bucheps had to sell everything they had, including the official deeds and the Golden Seal decrees proving their right as imperial electors. But it still wasn't enough at the time. The one who helped the Bucheps was Duke Ivan Bonebuk, the head of House Bonebuk. My father. Was it because father sympathized with Buchep's misfortune? The Bonebuk family has always lacked talent in swordsmanship, so they always wanted to acquire extraordinary secret sword techniques. Buchep's tragedy was the perfect opportunity. Bonebuk prevented other nobles from providing financial support to the Bucheps, gradually forcing the Bucheps to take on a huge debt. This way, the Bucheps could avoid disappearing, but the annual interest still made them suffer. Fuang An calculated. If I pressured them a little more, I could have gotten the secret techniques. And yet fate painted Luina as A.N.'s future love interest. The analysis of Luina Buchep showed that from her appearance, potential, and assets to her intellect, The noteworthy point is a debtor with the talent to become a royal knight. Aen's future lover has a connection to Aen. Fuang-an calculated, restore the family, save the world, fall in love. That's what Aen likes, isn't it? I have to forget about the secret techniques. If Luina is connected to Aen, I have to make sure she doesn't hate me. Fuang-an stepped forward. He said politely, Luina Bochep, you've arrived just in time for dinner. To be honest, I apologize for yesterday. I was so busy I forgot about our appointment. It really wasn't intentional. The girl looked aggrieved. The one in the weaker position just has to endure injustice. Fuang-an repeated, I told you it wasn't like that, Luina said sharply. Fine, I'll pretend that's the case. He replied, No, you don't have to pretend. The girl looked at him with a serious gaze. Let's get to the point. Forget it. So why did you want to see me? Fuang-an smiled and replied, I'm sure you already know, don't you? Inside, he began to roll out his plan. Time to make a good impression. Fuang-an's plan to win over. Luina Bochep. Phase 1. However, as soon as he said, starting from the second year, the magic and night departments will have a joint class, Luina immediately replied, No! Fuang-an exclaimed, I haven't even said anything yet. How did you know? The girl gently swirled her teacup and said slowly, You want me to be your partner, don't you? Why should I do that? What do I gain from partnering with you? I'm ranked 2nd and you're 10th. I have many better options. Seeing that she was being firm, he made an offer. If you agree to be my partner for 3 years, I will waive your interest payments. However, on the condition that you accept me as your sponsor, Luina asked in surprise. Why would you want that? Fuang-an explained. Because the joint class is very important. It's worth 5 credits. The girl shook her head. No, that's not what I mean. Why do you not only want to partner with me, but also sponsor me? In case you didn't know, I have a scholarship, Fuang-an replied gently. But because you have to send almost all of your money back to your family, everyone knows that outside of the dormitory you have to live more frugally than even a commoner. Sponsorship is nothing special. I just want to invest in your talent. Luina was a little surprised. This is the first time I've heard of a noble sponsoring another noble. He felt that Luina Bochep, like Aen, was a person who valued honor and integrity. He smiled and replied softly, Yes. Bowenbuck and Bochep are both noble families, but it's not like we're on equal footing, is it? In my heart. I'm certain that no matter how high Bochep holds her head, she can't compare to how she was before. Luina got angry. Are you insulting me? And Fernan smiled, certain that unlike Amian, he now had her under his control. Even if she hates it, she has to accept it. Even if she holds a personal grudge against the Bolinas family. He said to Luina, this is no time to let your pride get in the way. He wasn't lying. Fernand's plan to win over Luina Bochep entered its second phase. He switched to a new topic. Actually, I recently saw you performing a sword dance. Based on the prophecies, brown hair like floating clouds, aquamarine eyes, that's barely enough to describe a fraction of that woman. Her swordsmanship is exquisite, beautiful, and noble. More beautiful, noble, and vibrant than any epic tale could depict. Your swordsmanship is exquisite and alive. Luina was utterly stunned, looking at the young man's eyes. Fernand declared, you wouldn't refuse someone who recognizes your talent. Luina was stunned for a moment, then stammered out, are you talking? Fernand shot up to his feet, cutting her off. I can never forget the first time I saw your sword dance, A Hymn to the Swordsmanship of Luina Bochep. By author Fernand Bolinas began, Oh, her swordsmanship, how utterly graceful! Elegant, noble, and true, as swift as a ray of light, yet as gentle as a butterfly's wings. Every one of her movements torments my mind nightly. How could I possibly fall asleep? These cringy words made Luina cry out, That's awful, stop it, I'm begging you. Stop, Fernand shouted. No, I cannot! Luina's face turned pale. Why not? This pervert. He lunged in front of her, repeating his ode. It's because I cannot find any words that can describe the beauty of your swordsmanship. Helpless, Luina shouted, All right, I'll be your partner. And with that, the plan to win her over. Fernand's plan for Luina Bochep was a complete success. After returning to the dormitory, Luina told her nurse Serena about it. The woman exclaimed, 3 years of waived interest and sponsorship, with an additional clause that the sponsorship will be kept confidential and will end upon graduation. In return, you have to be his partner for 3 years. The young lady smiled and said, That's right. How could I possibly refuse? He said he saw potential in my sword dance. Serena asked in surprise. Saw what exactly? She excitedly recounted the potential. He said it was graceful, elegant, noble, and true, and also that he couldn't find the words. To describe the beauty of my swordsmanship. Hearing these words, veins popped on Nurse Serena's forehead. She flew into a rage, saying, My lady, that money grubber is definitely planning something. But I have to admit he has an eye for talent. Luina reminded her nurse, Watch what you say. He is still the heir of Belinus. Serena seethed. That's exactly it, that Belinus boy. Is now resorting to flirtatious tricks. I'm sure he plans to seduce you, my lady, with those sharp, deep eyes, and don't forget that depraved smile of his. Luina thought to herself, Nurse, that expression. Don't tell me he's your type, is he? She laughed and said, But I don't get the feeling he's trying to seduce me, although I admit it is truly suspicious. Having 3 years of interest waived will be a huge relief for the family. I'll try to endure it. Serena still felt resentful. But my lady, you're ranked 2nd in the class, while Fernan is ranked 10th. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. Serena walked over and opened it to find a tall man standing outside. She asked, Can I help you? The man announced, Lord Fernan Belinus wishes to see Lady Luina. He says he is waiting at the training grounds and requests that the lady come as soon as possible. Serena frowned. So when he calls, she's supposed to drop everything and come running. Luina was surprised. The training grounds? I will ask my lady, Serena said. Luina worried internally. Why would he want me to come to the training grounds? I have no idea what he's planning. Fernan walked onto the field carrying a magic staff on his shoulder. From what he knew, Luina Burchep was always ranked 2nd in their class. First place was a second-year knight, Bet's named Almond John User. She had never been able to defeat him, but people said she had the potential to become one of the 10 royal knights on the entire continent. She certainly has enough talent to become a royal knight, but there's a shadow in her heart. Today I want to see if that's true or not. Luina walked up to him, sword in hand. The young woman asked with confusion, I don't understand. What is this all about? Fernan smiled and replied, I don't want you to think I'm just a burden, so I'm going to show you that I'm not weak at all. Luina asked, And you want to prove that by defeating me right here? Even though you're only ranked 10th, you were granted the right to live in the main building, so I acknowledge your skills. However, there's a very clear gap between rank 2 and rank 10. Fernan remained insistent. Let's just give it a try. The young woman drew her sword. Very well. As you wish. I'd like to see what you can do myself. I'll let you have the first move. Fernan raised his magic staff and replied, with pleasure. He began to cast a spell. The orb on his staff glowed brightly as a powerful surge of mana emanated from it. Fernan muttered an incantation, Anbani Tani Jihong. A formation of red stone materialized and rushed to attack Luina. The young woman swung her sword, slashing with great force. A series of booms echoed out. Luina's skill was undeniable. Her decisive and lightning-fast sword strikes destroyed nearly all of the incoming boulders. But just when it seemed like she had it handled, she realized Fernan's magic was changing. Just as she destroyed the red stones and turned, she saw that her opponent's spell formation had been greatly reinforced. Luina thought to herself, is he destroying the training ground floor? The floor was magically reinforced so that even a powerful blow couldn't leave a mark, but now she just realized, Farron Bonebuck. Was he hiding his true strength? The magic orb grew increasingly blinding. Farron's eyes glowed red, a clear look of satisfaction on his face. Rocks suddenly appeared all over the floor, continuously surrounding and attacking Luina. It forced her to struggle just to defend herself. Luina leaped high to dodge her heart in utter turmoil. Impossible. Casting multiple spells and continuously using such high-level magic like this. Just how much mana do you have? This definitely isn't the power of someone ranked 10th. I completely misjudged my opponent. At this rate, I'll lose. Luina quickly erected a protective magic circle. The power like a whirlwind countered his attack. Farron was slightly surprised, and then he smiled. A nearby wall shattered into pieces. Farron reinforced his power and launched a new wave of attacks. Luina gripped her sword tightly and struck her blow as unstoppable as a bolt of lightning. In a flash, the magic staff fell to the ground. Luina held her position, her sword stopping right above his head. Fuangan smiled and said, I admit defeat. Luina snapped, Are you mocking me? He calmly replied, I'm not mocking you, I've just completely run out of mana. How could a mage with no mana possibly beat a knight? Luina sensed that he wasn't pretending. He was truly out of mana. In this state, he definitely can't beat me. I defended until he was exhausted, so this victory is mine. She frowned and shook her head slightly. But why do I have such a terrible feeling about this? This victory doesn't feel like a victory at all. Farron suddenly reached into his coat. I have something for you. He took out a small box, saying, "Since you defeated me." You like chocolate, don't you? It's Wizard's Kiss chocolate. My family makes it. It's delicious. Luina couldn't hide her delight. Oh, chocolate! Her mouth was already watering at the sight. Farron added, if you don't like this kind, I also have World Tree Bark chocolate and pecan cheese, a specialty of the Phrasia Kingdom. Just say the word, I have it all. Suddenly, Luina realized something. Wait, hold on, she asked loudly. Did you investigate my background? Farron's expression seemed to say, wipe your drool and then we can talk. He calmly replied, I wouldn't attack just you alone. I just looked up the personal information. Of all the top-ranking students, that's all, Luina said in frustration. That's what a background check is. And giving me chocolate because I won a duel. Do you think I'm a child? Farron feigned surprise. Oh, I thought you'd like it. But if not, then forget it. I won't force you. He started to put it away, but Luina snatched the box of candy. I never said I wasn't taking it. Farron smiled warmly. Well then, let's get along from now on. He turned to leave, but Luina suddenly called out, Wait, what is it? He asked, what's up? She said seriously, the amount of mana you possess is enormous enough to launch such brutal attacks continuously. I couldn't even begin to guess your limit. With that kind of power. Why are you only ranked 10th? Farron smiled. Isn't it obvious a merchant never steps into the spotlight? He's truly a cunning and unpredictable person. Farron returned home. Seeing the tattered magic staff and various fragments on the table, Tu immediately asked, What happened here? What did you do to completely shatter both the mana storage unit and the mana amplifier? Rummaging through his coat, Farron replied, I had a duel with Luina. She's really strong. I prepared thoroughly, but everything still got destroyed. Not only that, she forced me to use up every last drop of my mana, and she still held out until the end. He placed a small orb on the table. Tu sighed wearily. Why would you use such precious items? Just a duel with Luina Burchep, Farron replied. It's an investment for the future. Tu was confused. The future? He answered vaguely, yeah, something like that. Tu mumbled, no. Don't tell me the side effects from being struck by lightning have returned. Farron sat lost in thought, recalling the duel. Beautiful. Ian was right. The swordsmanship of Luina Burchep is swift, and yet it carries an air of nobility. Now I understand why Father craves the Burchep family's secret sword techniques. Luina is truly talented. Standing beside him, Tu muttered, I can usually guess the young master's intentions, but this time I really have no clue. Farron, however, was still lost in his questions. But why has she never taken first place? Is it because her equipment isn't good enough? He was suddenly startled by Tu's loud voice. Young master, what are you going to tell the Duke about this? The Burchep family's secret sword technique has been his Grace's lifelong wish. Farron replied, Ah, about that. I wasn't really thinking when I did it, but now that you mention it, I'm a bit worried. Do you think Father will disown me? Tu exclaimed. Disown you no way. He'll probably just kill you to get it over with. Farron was taken aback. Huh, I'm his own flesh and blood, you know. Such a double standard. Paperwork and procedures are so complicated, yet getting rid of someone is so simple. Fuang-an wondered if he'd really kill his own son just for obstructing his plans. In any case, I decided to write to Father about the Bo Chep incident beforehand and wait for his reply. As I finished the letter, I could vividly imagine Father clutching his throat and collapsing from a fit of rage. After he finished writing, Fuang-an would often have stray thoughts, like wondering about any news related to the demons or what would happen if his father actually decided to strangle him. As these unsettling premonitions washed over him again and again, he tried to ignore them. He stopped thinking about it. Then a few days later, a reply from his father arrived. Fuang-an held the letter, his expression extremely tense. He said, This is sooner than I thought. The aide agreed, Yes, so the time has finally come. Fuang-an asked cautiously, Did Father leave any personal message for me? The man replied, No, he didn't. But his expression was so miserable he looked like he was about to burst into tears. Fuang-an asked, Then why do you look like that? The aide's voice was choked with emotion. Because I have a feeling that today will be the last day I get to serve you, young master. Fuang-an hushed him. Don't say such things. He was certain this couldn't be the reason. that I'd get disowned. I remember it clearly. I was disowned because of A in Amiens. For the crime of colluding with a demon, I was exiled. His aide took out a handkerchief, tears streaming down his face. My dear friend, why were the calculations so meticulous? But this incident has nothing to do with demons. It'll probably be fine. He opened the paper. Inside was a single sentence. You have been possessed by a demon. Signed, from Yvonne Boonbuk. Phuong An's face went rigid. He said to his aide, We have to go see father, immediately. His aide froze. What is it? What does the letter say? Phuong An thought to himself, a demon, no. That can't be right. Am I really getting tangled up with demons in this way? No, it can't be. His mind was in absolute chaos. I can't just admit I have a book of prophecies. Phuong An arrived at the Boonbuk castle. The butler bowed and said, This way, sir. The book of prophecies. It doesn't exist in a physical form, and there's no way to prove a book of prophecies exists only in my mind. Father will think, Father, that a merchant is having absurd delusions, or he'll fly into a rage thinking I'm trying to ruin the family's reputation. I have to offer something else, something that can compensate for the losses from the Bo Chep incident. He followed the butler to his father's office. As the door opened, Yvonne Boonbuk was sitting at his desk. He put down his pen, looked at his son, and spoke. You're calmer than I expected. I was starting to think you were on something. And had lost your mind. Or perhaps that the demon destroyed by the former emperor had been resurrected and possessed my son. If it's none of those things, then explain why you did it. Phuong An calmly replied, I've decided to invest in the Bo Chep affair in a more beneficial way. Yvonne asked, What investment could be better than the top-secret swordsmanship manual? He replied, That, I cannot say. His father's voice was stern. Phuong An, this is not a request. Right now you are a criminal, a fool squandering the family's assets. Without flinching, he replied confidently, I know. However, my opinion has not changed. If you entrust the entire Bo Chep affair to my handling father, I am confident I can bring in a profit even greater than that swordsmanship manual. Yvonne stared directly into his son's eyes and challenged, Is that so? Then let me ask again, where does this confidence come from? Phuong An maintained his answer, I cannot say. His father's eyes filled with disbelief. Ridiculous! I never taught you to be so impulsive. Do you not understand that this isn't a matter that can be resolved with a childish tantrum? Phuong An saw how resolute his father was. He thought to himself, just as I predicted. I have no choice but to use what's mentioned in the prophecy as a bargaining chip. I didn't want to have to play this card so soon. But now I have no choice. Phuong An replied calmly, I am not throwing a tantrum. In exchange for my taking full responsibility for the Bo Chep incident, I will provide you with information, Father. Information that only I know. Yvonne tapped his fingers on the desk and asked in a softer tone, Information only you know. He explained, Father, you know that I run my own private intelligence network. He replied with a hint of sarcasm. I doubt it's much better than a bunch of children playing house. But fine, continue. What is this grand piece of information Phuong An revealed to the west of the Arut mountain range? And in the territory of Viscount John Otso, there is an undiscovered magic stone mine. Yvonne exclaimed, A magic stone mine? I've never heard of any mine in that region. How did you find this out? Your amateur intelligence network is no different from children digging in the dirt. But it is children who are always digging in the dirt. And sometimes they accidentally dig up a buried coin. That place in the Arut range is more than enough to cover the damages from the Bo Chep affair with a large amount left over. These words made Yvonne's expression change. Phuong An asserted, It's a mountain of money. Magic stone is an ore containing mana considered one of the most precious minerals. Because of that, it generates money. A lot of money. However, the magic stone mine in the Arut range was only mentioned in passing in the prophecy. There weren't any specific details. I've never seen it with my own eyes, so I have absolutely no idea what its scale is. But at least it's enough to buy me some time. Phuong An presented his plan. A shipment operated by House Otso was just sunk in a storm. Their financial situation is not very good right now. If we cleverly use this opportunity, we can seize the mining rights. He calculated to himself, as for the prophecy being discovered, it would be best so to delay revealing it for as long as possible. Yvonne said, If what you say is true, it would be enough to cover the damages you've caused. However, it still needs to be verified. That will take time. So for now, go back and focus on your studies properly. When we have the results, I will call you back. Phuong An replied firmly, Understood. He immediately turned and left. I was a little worried. Had I managed to quell the old man's anger? Why do I feel like 15 years of my life just vanished? Suddenly, Yvonne called out to Fonan. Startled, he turned back and answered, "Yes, father." Internally, his thoughts were in chaos. What, did I do something wrong again? Yes. But his father just said, "Since you're here, let's have a meal together." I can't just send you away. Fonan sighed in relief. Ah, that's right. The thick, sturdy door was quickly shut after Fonan left. Yvonne immediately began his reprimand. I'm a little disappointed in you. Even the Black Tortoise couldn't find what you managed to. Note: the Black Tortoise is an intelligence unit under Duke Bombbox. Orlando replied in a serious tone, "My sincerest apologies. I will have them reinvestigate everything." Yvonne reminded him, "Don't be too harsh. Take it slow." He then suddenly asked his partner about something more important. "What do you think of Fonan?" Orlando laughed and said, "Are you planning to do business with the young master? You've become a merchant yourself now, Your Grace. I still have some questions. I'm suspicious about how he found that magic stone mine. That should become clear once the specialists who investigate mineral veins are involved." Orlando asked, "The Golden Pillar, you mean?" Note: the Golden Pillar is an intelligence unit directly under Fonan. Analysis: Fonan understands the value of minerals for profit very well. That's why, even with his talent for fire magic, he chose to become an earth mage. Of course, this information still needs to be verified. Orlando speculated, but it's very likely the young master truly does possess the Golden Pillar, and has developed that organization to the point where they can even locate mineral veins. Yvonne gave a satisfied smile. That kid has been obsessed with minerals since he was little. I never expected he'd accomplish something like this. He looked at the paper in his hand. A magic stone mine, huh? Whose son is this clever? Yvonne's expression suddenly turned serious. He instructed, one more thing. Investigate that girl Luina Bekshiap thoroughly. I want to know exactly what she did. To seduce that boy. Orlando asked, "You mean the young master has fallen for Luina Bekshiap?" Yvonne cut him off. "I'm done speaking. You may leave." "You may. No profit, no investment. But if there is profit, you must put down the money." He was silent for a moment, then added, "But if you invest for no clear reason, it means your eyes have been caught by something else. If it's not the love of youth, what else could it be? But I have a feeling that's not the whole story. That boy loves money more than his own life. What on earth did he choose in the end?" In the grand hall, Luina was eating a large cup of ice cream. Fonan asked, "Did the great Aaliyah pair up with Carlos Janep?" She replied, "Yeah. Carlos chose Aaliyah right after I said I'd be your partner for class." He asked curiously, "The great Aaliyah is the 4th ranked in the night department, right?" Luina nodded. "Yeah. She used to be 5th, but she improved dramatically." Fonan asked again, "You told Carlos you were pairing with me?" She answered nonchalantly, "The rumor's already out. There's no point in hiding it. Sooner or later, everyone will know. Everyone's saying I partnered with you for your money. Anyone could have guessed that. I'll just have to learn to deal with it. It's not entirely wrong anyway." He smiled. "Yeah, I really do like money. There's nothing I wouldn't do for it." Luina thought to herself, "Amazing. No wonder everyone calls him a money-crazed maniac. In any case, that's precisely why I hate him." Suddenly, Fonan presented a gift. "Here, take this." She asked in surprise, "What is this?" He replied, "A vial of elixir and an exchange voucher. The elixir was brewed from a mandragora root, and you can take the voucher to the weapon shop managed by my company. You can use it to exchange for high-grade equipment." Luina looked at the valuable items and reiterated, "I won't be able to pay you back for this." He said, "Have you forgotten the contract we signed?" "The sponsorship contract," the girl replied bluntly. "Even so, giving me items produced by the Golden Tortoise Merchant Guild? This is far beyond what I can accept as a gift. Don't you think this is too much?" "The Golden Tortoise is the merchant guild run by the Bellenbach family." Fonan smiled and nodded slightly, continuing, "Judging by your reaction, it seems you think so too." He replied with a firm, "Not at all." His mind was full of calculations. "Yeah, it really is too much. But if this is the price to win Luina's favor and avoid a future where I become a beggar, then it's a bargain. Plus, if she becomes strong enough to help me fight against demons, it'll be even more worth it." Luina refused firmly, "But it's still too much. I can't possibly accept it." "Refusing sponsorship is a breach of contract." "That's reason enough to terminate the contract. The penalty fee would probably be—" Startled, Luina quickly cut him off. "All right, I'll take it." Fonan stood up. "Good. See you in class." I have something to take care of, so I'll head out later. He left quickly, leaving Luina sitting there worriedly. Even for a sponsorship, this is still too expensive. She suddenly wondered, oh, right, was there a penalty clause in the contract? Luina replayed her memories, searching for a long time. Was there No. There definitely wasn't one, right? She suddenly felt a sense of dread. What the? Did he just lie to give me these precious things? So he's really trying to tempt me. To steal the secret swordsmanship manual, just like Nanny said. Go ahead and try, but don't even dream of succeeding. The class had already started. Fung An stood on the balcony observing for a while. He mumbled, A-In should have been in this class by now. Where could he be? Ah, there he is. A-In stood in a group of students on the other side of the training grounds. It was the first class for the first-year Night Division War and Practical Combat, a subject famous for evaluating students' true abilities, through friendly matches. According to the prophecy, ever since A&M, Ian possessed the spirit sword of Gnalfred Bazin, he would become bright and famous, and his journey to become the world's savior officially begins here. Suddenly a voice rang out, Who is that person over there? The moment Fung An turned around, he recognized him. He never expected to see Louis Traben here. Fung An eagerly asked, How have you been, Your Highness? He patted his shoulder, smiled warmly, and said, Your Highness, it's been a while. Why are you being so formal? Just relax, Fung An explained. This is the first time we've met since becoming second years. I thought we should at least greet each other properly. Curiously, he asked, What's going on? Have you got your eye on any new students? He slowly replied, I always keep a close watch on the ones in the rankings. What about you? Fung An probed, Are you here because of A-In Ian? Louis didn't hide it at all. Of course. He's from the old royal family after all. For the past 100 years, no one from the house of Am-Ian has set foot in the academy. So it's understandable that everyone is curious now that one has enrolled, right? Fung An thought to himself. Louis Traben, the second prince of the current empire. The royal family. Straben has held the throne for 3 generations, since being elected as the royal house 100 years ago. They share the same roots as the Am-Ian family, but now, the relationship between the old royal family and the current one has become strained. Furthermore, Louis is someone who values power immensely and wants the Straben lineage to continue on the throne. Therefore, the existence of A-In Am. Ian, who carries a more legitimate bloodline, is no small threat. Suddenly, Louis looked at someone below and said, I guess he's also very curious about In Am-Ian? Fung An exclaimed. What? He followed Louis's gaze. It was a red-haired young man watching intently. He let out an, Oh. Isn't that Vasen Calendar? Louis replied. That's right. He entered the Knight Academy this time as the Salutatorian. The Calendar family is looking for an opportunity to replace the fallen Am-Ian family and become one of the 7 Elector families. Could that be why he has been staring at A and Am? Ian this whole time, Fung An now knew. So that's Vasen Calendar. What a coincidence. The relationship between Louis and Vasen probably starts from here. But in every epic tale, there is always a villain the protagonist must overcome to grow. For Vasen, he has an obsession with and the protagonist of the prophecy. Defeat him. Make everyone understand that the past is the past. I get it? In Am-Ian. I will definitely sever the Am-Ian bud. Vasen Calendar is the next opponent. Just then, Professor G.R. shouted, After Anton Gen E.R.N. next up is In Am-Ian. Fung An marveled. Louis Traben and his lackeys and also Vasen Calendar. We're witnessing the hero's journey. A truly beginning. Is this also destiny? How interesting. Now then, let's see. Professor G.R. gave the signal. All right, begin. In Fung An's mind, the image from the prophecy appeared. The winner. In Am-Ian. A deafening cheer erupted. In won! In has defeated Anton Gen E.R.N. At that very moment, the name In truly began to spread among the instructors and students. Both Louis and Vasen were completely surprised. Fung An felt incredibly excited. Could this prophecy prove that I was right to invest in In? Professor G.R. gave the signal. Well then, begin. Anton started to move. His speed was incredible. In looked a little worried as he swung his sword to block his opponent's attack. Anton followed up with a horizontal slash. In hastily jumped high into the air to dodge the blow and tried to land safely, but after just a few moves, In was already panting heavily. I heard this class pairs people up randomly for fights. That guy, Ain Amian, is really unlucky. Anton was ranked 10th in the entrance exam, while Ain Amian was all the way down at 38th. That's way too tough of an opponent for Ain. The match grew more and more intense. Luong sighed. Being pushed this far, well, he's only ranked 38th. It's not like I was expecting much anyway. This match is so boring. He patted Funan on the shoulder. There's nothing else to see. I'm out of here. He suddenly said, I wouldn't say there's nothing to see. Luong went, huh. Down in the arena, Ayn suddenly made a swift sword strike. Anto only had time to retreat a little as the tip of the blade tore a line across his clothes. He stood there frozen like a statue. Staring at the gash in his clothes, the surrounding crowd erupted into a clamor. What Anto couldn't even counterattack. Impossible. Ayn is ranked 38th. Varen was also taken aback by this turn of events. Fonan thought to himself perhaps he was caught off guard by his opponent's fierce initial attack. The fact that he's so clearly flustered, shows that he's still green. But if he just regains his composure and fights back, the tables will turn instantly. Anto gripped the sword in his hand, absolutely furious. How could a piece of trash ranked 38th like you possibly make me lose? Anto channeled his energy and cast a spell. A blazing red tornado appeared. A fellow student said, Ayn is doing better than I thought, but Anto will still win, right? I mean, he's holding his own. Lasting this long is enough to save face for the royal family. A girl scoffed disdainfully. Save face, he's ranked 38th for crying out loud. Someone else smiled a bit excited. I can't believe someone ranked 38th is forcing the Academy's 10th-ranked student to use his aura. I guess you could say he's at least worthy of the Amian name. For someone without talent to try so hard is commendable, I suppose. Hearing these words, Fonan thought to himself, no talent. Ayn Amian, no talent, impossible. It's not that Ayn lacks ability, it's that his environment has never given him the support he needed. Ayn was fiercely countering Anto's attacks. Despite being underestimated, he wasn't discouraged in the slightest. Fonan felt that Ayn Amian was someone special. He is the one chosen by the prophecy, the main character of this world. Ayn moved behind Anto, and in the blink of an eye, his opponent's sword was sent flying. Anto collapsed. Professor Gr shouted, The winner is Ayn Amian. Ayn raised his sword high, his face filled with pure joy, showing no sign of discomfort. Meanwhile, the other students were all ecstatic. Ayn won. He defeated Antogenejan, Phone, and thought to himself, just as predicted, the prophecy has come true. I didn't choose the wrong person. I can already hear the money rolling in. He calculated, I just need to raise Ayn well and turn him into my ally. Lou still couldn't believe it. Ayn won, Fonan whistled. Next time I'll try to recruit Luina. In the joint lecture hall, seeing Fonan and Luina sitting next to each other, the students immediately began to whisper amongst themselves. Are they really a couple? One person wondered. Why would Luina agree to that? Is it for money? Fonan rested his chin on his hand and said, This is so annoying. We're getting way too much attention. I don't like being the center of attention. Luina replied, Just ignore them. They'll stop eventually. He changed the subject. By the way, did you drink the elixir I gave you, and have you changed your equipment? Do you like it? The girl fell silent for a moment. Was she really going to tell him how excited Luina was after changing her equipment so much so that even Cezina had to exclaim, Oh, my milady, you look so cool, or how after drinking the elixir... Her body was overflowing with energy. She couldn't just say that out loud. She hesitated and replied, well, it's not too bad. Just then, a professor walked into the classroom. Is everyone here? Accompanying her was another tall professor. As soon as she stepped onto the podium, she said, It looks like everyone has found a partner already. No one's late, are they? I am Professor Rosalia of the Magic Department, and as you all know, this is Professor GZ of the Night Department. From now on, our two departments will be holding joint classes. Now then, let's begin. You've all received a map from the teaching assistant, correct? Fonan was also handed a scroll. Professor Rosalia cast a spell setting up a magic circle. Our first session will be an outdoor practical. Professor GZ explained the lesson's content. There's no better way to test your knowledge than through actual combat. Starting now, you will all be thrown into a field test. The destination is marked on the map. You just need to get there within 4 hours. However, you cannot arrive too early, nor can you be too late. It must be exactly 4 hours from now. That means exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Any questions? One male student raised his hand and asked, Does this count towards our grade? The professor snapped, This is the most important assessment besides the midterm and final exams. Someone else asked, Are we allowed to fight each other? Professor Rosalia answered, If you manage to capture someone else, you'll receive bonus points. If there are no further questions, let's begin. Immediately. The students were stunned. What? The teaching assistant standing next to Fonan immediately cast a spell. A blinding light emanated from the magic circle, making the students anxious. Rosalia declared loudly, "Well, then I wish you all good luck!" All the students were transported into a secret domain. Fonan and Luina landed in a sparse forest. He looked around and wondered, "Where are we?" Luina replied, "We'll have to figure that out for ourselves now." The girl suddenly remembered, "First, let's check the map." Suddenly, there was a commotion up ahead. Two fellow students appeared, a red-haired girl and a young man. Weakly, a girl called out, "Luina and Fernan, hello." Fernan recognized them. "It's Dian Hak and Net Balin. Aren't they both ranked outside the top 70? Luina asked. "What should we do now?" He answered nonchalantly. "Do you even have to ask? Is there any need to bother with low-ranked trash like them?" The two friends shouted indignantly, "Trash!" Fernan glanced at Luina and added, "Normally, that's what I'd say before turning my back and walking away. But this time, I'll follow your decision completely." The girl's eyes lit up. "Excellent!" Luina gripped the hilt of her sword. "All right, first, after we get the bonus points, we'll check the map and figure out our current location." Fernan wondered, wouldn't it be easier to use magic? She asked in surprise, "There's a spell that can pinpoint our location." "No," Fernan explained. "I meant we should climb somewhere high and observe our surroundings." Luina was dumbfounded. How is that any different from just looking at the map? Whatever, let's just get past those bushes. Seeing them deep in discussion, Dian and Net Balin leaned over to whisper, "This is our chance. Run." But after just a few steps, Luina was already blocking their path. "We need to claim those bonus points." "Where do you think you're going?" Dian and Net screamed, "Ah!" But just as Luina's sword was about to pierce them, a protective magic circle instantly appeared, shielding them. Her sword stabbed into their map scroll instead. Only then did Fernan realize. "So the maps from the teaching assistants have defensive charms on them, huh?" Luina said. "That's right. If I'd known, I wouldn't have gone so easy on them." He yelled, "You call that going easy? You were attacking them like you were actually trying to kill them." On the system monitoring board, the entry for Dian Hak and Net Balin Magic Department, rank 77, slowly faded away. Professor GR exclaimed, "Another team eliminated. People are being eliminated much faster than I expected." Rosalia mused. "But it's strange. No one has been defeated by monsters. They've all been eliminated from fighting each other." GR suddenly asked, "By the way, Professor Rosalia, are there any pairs you have your eye on this time?" She looked at the magic formation and replied slowly, "If we're just going by the scoreboard, the pair of Lucas Traben and Alon Johnson S. is the strongest. The team of Carlos Janep and Aaliyah Toting is also worth watching. But the pair I've got my eye on the most is without a doubt Luana Birch and Fernand Boneberger." GR recalled, "Ah, yes, that pair. They really caused quite a commotion among the students. Luana is the one who really lost out by partnering with him. Could it have been for money? But Fernand doesn't seem to care about scores at all." Rosalia smiled. "Perhaps there was another reason he chose to team up with Luina?" GR asked in surprise. "So it wasn't for the points," she confirmed. "That's right, because Fernand is a student who can raise his score anytime he pleases. He doesn't need to partner with anyone." GR was confused. "He can raise his score anytime he wants." "What do you mean by that?" Rosalia explained. "Fernand is always ranked 10th. No higher, no lower. It's normal for a good student to be at the top, but staying precisely in 10th place all the time. That's a bit strange, don't you think? The current rankings are first Carlos Genep, second Lucas Traben, third Daisy Ha, fourth Jin Barathe, fifth Neji Hoffman, sixth Itaro Man, and 10th Fernand Boone. Furthermore, Fernand's theoretical scores are almost perfect, but he always loses just enough points in his practical exams, no more, no less, to keep him in the Radiant S building. So people just assumed he was the type who doesn't like to stand out," GR surmised. "Which means that Fernand character is deliberately hiding his true strength." Rosalia agreed. "Exactly. Do you remember the recent incident where the training grounds were completely destroyed? The professors were all in a frenzy looking for the culprit. It turns out Fernand and Luina were responsible." GR cried out in astonishment. "What? They were the ones who trashed the training grounds. There's no way any student could be powerful enough to destroy that place." She smiled. "That's not true, and that's why this is so intriguing to me." He asked, "What is why Fernand is hiding his power?" Rosalia replied, "No, I'm curious why he's decided to stop hiding it now." Meanwhile, inside the trial grounds, Fernan stood atop a mountain checking the map and observing the surrounding terrain. The marked location on the map is the northern coast. I think we're somewhere around here. But from below, non-stop screams echoed. "It's Luina! Help me! Luina Birch, you monster! I know points are important, but we're just supposed to be finding our way." While Luina took care of clearing the obstacles, he concluded, "This must be the western mountain region then." Luina's voice called up from below. "It's all clear on this end. How are things on your end? Have you pinpointed our destination?" Fernan leaped down in front of her and answered, "All set. We just need to head northeast. We should run into plenty of people along the way." Luina exclaimed cheerfully, "Excellent," he asked, "planning to hunt down the next pair already?" The girl brushed a stray lock of hair from her forehead and replied, "Yeah, we still have a lot of time. I think we should use it to rack up more bonus points." Suddenly, a giant boulder came falling from the sky. Fernan quickly blocked it with his magic staff. A young man stepped out, calling out, Well, fancy meeting you here, Fernan Bonberger?" It was a familiar face. The duo of Carlos Janep and Alia Toting. Luina said resentfully, "What's so honorable about a sneak attack from behind?" He replied nonchalantly, "In battle anything is fair game. Have you forgotten the professor said this is a real fight?" A magic staff in his hand glowed brightly, emanating incredibly powerful magic. Carlos said, "You think after running into you this early, I would just let you leave so easily? Bring it on." Seeing the obvious anger on his face, Luina found it a bit hard to understand why Carlos Genep was so furious. Fan guessed, "He begged you to partner with him, didn't he?" "Right. His pride was probably wounded because I stole you. How childish holding such a long grudge over something so trivial." Luina replied with a stern face, "Stole? That sounds ridiculous. I don't belong to anyone." Hearing these words, Carlos was now more than a little stunned. Fanan taunted, "For such a big guy, you sure act like a child." Red-faced with anger, he yelled, "Stop your nonsense and let's fight," Fanan said. "Well, it looks like this battle is unavoidable." Luina replied, "That's fine. Defeating a high-ranked pair means more bonus points. But since this is a high-ranked pair, you can't just stand back and watch this time." Fanan sighed. "I know, I'll support you, so feel free to go all out." Luina's expression showed she didn't have much faith in her teammate. She exclaimed, "Support, don't push yourself. You and I haven't practiced coordinating at all. What kind of support could you provide?" He smiled reassuringly. "We're a pair. There's no point in us fighting separately." "Right, don't worry." Fan began to cast a spell formation. Rocks and earth from the ground flew into the air, quickly encircling their opponents as the monolight grew steadily more intense. He said in a loud voice, "Just trust me." Meanwhile, outside the lecture hall, Professor Rosalia noticed a major disturbance. It looks like there's a rather large battle going on over there. It's the Western Mountain region." Garrick wondered, have the students started fighting monsters already? She immediately checked and found that no monsters had appeared in that area. "Let's go take a closer look." The view of the Secret Realm's Western Mountain area was magnified. Garrick exclaimed, "It seems the two pairs Professor Rosalia just mentioned have clashed." She replied with excitement, "My goodness, two pairs of high-ranking students facing off like this. This is truly something to look forward to." Garrick smiled. "Wonderful. Fan and Bonebuck, this time I'll get to see your true strength with my own two eyes." Inside the Secret Realm, the fight between Fanon's team and Carlos's team had now become fierce. Both sides rushed into close combat with full fighting spirit. Luina suddenly felt something was very strange. She thought to herself, "What's going on? My body feels unnaturally light." A thought flashed through her mind. No way. Is this a support spell? When did he even cast it? Luina glanced over at Fanon. He was controlling his magic staff with one hand while casting a support formation with the other. She was truly shocked. In the middle of a battle, he still has the time to cast a support spell. Realizing Luina had noticed, Fanon gave her a wink as if to say, "Pretty cool, right?" "Right," she thought in a panic. "Is this guy crazy? This guy is unbelievable." Alia unleashed a swift attack, her sword slashing toward Luina. Luina immediately leaped high into the air to dodge. She landed and instantly returned to her fighting stance. "I can't lose focus. I have to get rid of Alia first." She brought her sword down in a powerful counterattack. With a clang, Alia raised her own sword to block the blow, her entire body trembling from the impact. Luina's strength is incredible. Fan suddenly shot a beam of light at Luina. She was instantly bound tight, completely unable to move a muscle. Her sword arm went rigid. Luina's thoughts were in turmoil. My body won't move. What the hell is this? But Aaliyah quickly noticed her opponent's predicament. She grinned. I've almost got you. Luina gritted her teeth and shot back. This is nothing! Aaliyah swung her sword and rushed forward. If I just use all my strength and focus my ki... As she channeled her energy, concentrating all her attack power, she brought her sword down with immense force. But to her surprise, what Aaliyah's sword hit was a large rock. She exclaimed in astonishment, What? Then where is Luina? Luina herself couldn't understand what had just happened or why she had suddenly been transported next to Fan An. She turned to him and asked, What was that? He gave an awkward laugh and answered, Oh, it's a magic spell my family recently developed. It seemed useful, so I learned it immediately. It allows for the swapping of two objects with the same weight. Hearing this, Luina was stunned. She screamed, How do you know my weight? Fan An answered casually, It's written in the student records, you know. As for that rock, it looks heavy, but it's not really. Luina grabbed Fan An by the collar and jumped up. With a single slash, she shattered the rock to pieces, then landed back on the ground and yelled, I'll interrogate you about this later, and as for that record, I'm going to burn it to a crisp. Fan An pleaded, Please be gentle. Did you do that on purpose? Luina tossed him behind her. Thump Fan An yelped, It wouldn't have killed you to carry me properly and put me down gently. She said loudly, I'll take care of Aaliyah. You just focus on stopping Carlos. He picks up the magic staff. I wonder how many more times I'll have to roll around like this. How humiliating. Suddenly, he sees a large magic circle forming in the sky. Fernan smiles smugly. That guy, Carlos. People have been wondering why he hasn't used that move yet. Carlos Genep's signature attack is summoning lightning that falls like rain and a giant pillar of light created from dozens of lightning bolts at once. It's a high-level spell with destructive power far beyond that of a student, and it's also why he's at the top of the Night Division. He reaches into his coat, searching. Let's see now. I've already researched a way to block this attack. Fernan takes out 2 large gems. Now I can finally test it out. Let's see how effective this is. He begins to chant. The 2 gems release small bolts of lightning that slowly infiltrate Carlos's magic circle. At that moment, Carlos is focusing his energy. As he's casting the spell, he suddenly notices something is wrong. A booming explosion rings out, and the magic circle collapses. Carlos roars in frustration as thick smoke and dust billow everywhere. After a while, the smoke clears. Fernan stands there smiling. It was a success. Carlos, now stunned, cries out, You blocked it! Impossible! How could you? He throws the 2 gems down in front of him. This is a storage device that can absorb magical energy, Fernan says slowly, brushing the dust off his clothes. Of course I modified it a bit. It was expensive and difficult to make, I'll admit. But the results aren't bad at all. If I refine it a little more and succeed in mass-producing it, then this item could definitely be sold on the market. He laughs to himself. Haha, I smell money. Carlos retorts angrily. Using a magical artifact is cowardly. It's cheating. What's cowardly about fighting smart? Did you forget this is a practical combat exercise? He's immediately rendered speechless. He loudly calls for Luina. Only then does Carlos remember. Damn it, Aaliyah, Fernan urges. Finish it, Luina. A murderous glint flashes in Luina's eyes as she delivers a powerful slash, finishing off their opponent. But not far away, the pair Luke Traben and Alan Johns have already sensed the presence of their next opponents. Luke says, Out of the 4 of them, there are only 2 left. Alan agrees. That means someone's been eliminated. The teaching assistants will immediately teleport the eliminated students to the finish point. He asserts, There's no mage among the students who could block Carlos's lightning spell. Looks like this time, Fernan Bonebook and Luina Burchep were the unlucky ones. Luke replies, No. This is the duo of Fernan and Burchep. Fernan hates standing out, so he's always hidden his true abilities, but ever since he paired up with Burchep, he can't hide them anymore. He's forced to keep up with Burchep's pace, who's obsessed with her grades. If Fernan were to use his full strength, his rank would definitely increase, but in my circle, the moment my rank drops even a little, they'll all rush in to crush me. That's why I can't just leave a potential rival like him alone. Behind him is a crowd of followers. They are ready to obey Luke's orders. He says, As long as you follow me, you will reach the designated point safely, and as promised, and you will receive a high rank in this test. However, 1 pair must be eliminated before we reach the goal. Luina Burchep and Fernan Bonebook. Capture them alive. A very powerful sword slash cuts across the monster's body. It was taken down by Luina in an instant. The girl says, Looks like we're still on time at this rate. We might even finish in first place. Luina looks over at Fernan. He's busy collecting the spoils of battle. She approaches and asks, "Do you really think that's necessary?" Fernan replies, "Giant demon blood is one of the main ingredients for crafting recovery potions." Luina retorts, "I know that, but compared to your family's fortune, that stuff is just pocket change." He insists, "Even if it's pocket change, it's still money. I'll take whatever I can get." She sighs. "This is why everyone calls you a money grubber," Fernan replies nonchalantly. "Well, it's thanks to that I was able to recruit you. So I'd say it's quite a profitable trait, don't you think?" Luina changes the subject. "If you're done, let's get going." He suddenly asks, "How many have we taken down?" She says excitedly, 7 or 8 pairs. "No, 8 pairs. I'm expecting a hefty reward for this." Fernan shakes his head slightly. "You're really obsessed with grades." Luina snaps back, "Better than being obsessed with money." She asserts, "Besides, I have a very good reason for needing to become the top student." Suddenly, Fernan looks up at the sky and says, "Yeah, I can sense them too. A lot of them. At least 20, and that's just a rough estimate, and it looks like all of them are targeting us." As soon as the words left his mouth, a large group of people jumped down, launching an all-out attack. Fernan immediately casts a spell to counter their attack. They quickly separate the two. One group surrounds Fernan, while Alon, blade in hand, rushes to attack Luina. She is a little surprised to recognize Alon Johns. She quickly swings her sword to block his attack. The two forces collide, creating a powerful shockwave. Alon and Luina are both thrown back a few steps. Immediately after, they charge back into a fierce melee. Luina shows no mercy while Alon is determined to capture her alive. Their swords clash against each other, creating a shower of sparks. Luke suddenly appears. He moves to a higher position, gathers his energy, and unleashes a powerful fire attack on Fernan. He was busy dealing with the others and is momentarily surprised. "So this guy's been playing the waiting game, huh?" Seeing Luke's attack. Alon pauses. Luke's expression is full of confidence, as if wondering how his opponent could possibly escape. Fernan, however, is not afraid. He meets Luke's attack head-on. The two mages clash. The amount of mana they mobilized was so great it caused a massive explosion. Those standing nearby were caught in the blast, each one feeling suffocated. Luke lands on the ground. He says with an amused look, "Good grief. I was just going to watch, but you took care of half my pursuers in the blink of an eye. Could you please try to be a little less aggressive? You're fighting way too fiercely. It's not like you at all. I know full well what that guy in the cloak is up to. She's playing at being the queen." Fernan replied bluntly, "I just wanted to see what it's like to take first place for once." Lugus scoffed, "First place, huh? No way. So let's try negotiating peacefully. You know there's less than an hour left in the test, right? If we fight now, neither of our teams will make it to the finish line in time. How about you let me and Alon take first and your team can have second? That way we both benefit. What do you say?" While Fernan was still thinking, Luina roared, "I'd rather lose in a fight than hand over first place to someone else without even trying." Lugus, with a helpless expression, said to Fernan, "You heard her. My partner doesn't agree." He smirked. "Looks like negotiations have failed, huh? All right, then. Let's see what you've got," Fernan said. Then he channeled the combined power of the people on Luina's side. They were naturally stronger than Fernan's side, but there was one thing they forgot. He was an earth mage. Fernan smiled and replied, "Let's save that for next time." Lugus suddenly felt that something was wrong, but it was too late. A magic circle appeared beneath their feet. The ground suddenly began to shake violently and rocks came crashing down. Lugus shouted, "It's a trap! Everyone run!" A large boulder fell with a loud crash. "Hey, Lou!" Fernan patted Luina on the shoulder. "Hey, let's get running." The girl grumbled as they walked. "Honestly, if you had a trick like that, why didn't you use it sooner?" he complained. "I'm dead tired. Besides, it wouldn't have lasted long anyway." The trial ended. The students gathered at the finish line. Professor G.R. praised them. "Everyone did a great job. Now we will announce the test rankings. First place, Luina, Berchep, and Fernan Bolenbuck." Everyone was surprised and started murmuring. "For real? Wasn't it supposed to be Lugus and Alon?" Fernan smiled with satisfaction while Luina looked incredibly proud. In second place, Lugus Choban and Alon Johnson. Both of them covered in mud. Didn't look very happy. "And in third place is..." Fernan suddenly said, "Looks like we really did get first place, huh?" Luina, however, felt that the victory wasn't entirely convincing. "Even though we're both skilled, we didn't actually defeat Alon." To be honest, I didn't think I'd get first place either, he replied. But hey, first place is first place. Defeated or not, what does it matter, right? The girl admitted. Of course. This is the first time I've ever been at the top. It feels amazing. Fernan gave a bright smile. Inwardly, he thought, the strategy was a success. Professor G.R. instructed, the test ends here. We will be returning to the academy soon, so don't wander off. Suddenly, Luina asked Fernan, hey, you know the new student Ian Amiri, right? He answered, of course. Who doesn't know Amiri? The girl recounted, actually, I ran into him the other day. Fernan was startled. Huh. You met Ian Amiri, Luina recalled. Yeah, I accidentally bumped into him while I was training at night. The situation was pretty interesting. It was just like that time you secretly watched me practice my swordsmanship. These words made Fernan freeze. He kept rubbing his face, which surprised Luina very much. Fernan felt strange words appearing before his eyes again. This was a prophecy. Another part was being revealed. The contents shocked him completely. What is this? The sky was red as blood, a thick, suffocating, poisonous gas, a terrifying demon as if heralding the apocalypse was targeting Ian Amiri. Then the resilient back of a brave knight stood in front of him. Fernan felt the story had changed. The words of the prophecy appeared again. Senior, what are you doing? Ian Amiri, you asked me once, didn't you? You asked me to be your knight. I refused back then, but not anymore. Now I know who you are, and I know what you're fighting for. This is my destiny. A knight is the sword that strikes down their master's enemies, and also the shield that protects them. Luina charged towards the demon Ensomalis. A brilliant blue aura surrounded her. Fernan wondered, what the details of the story have changed again. The scene changed. Luina was lying in a hospital bed covered in wounds. Ian held her hand tightly. Thank heavens. I'm so glad you're okay. You're in the hospital, Senior. Please listen to me and don't misunderstand. Ian's eyes burned with intensity as he looked at Luina. The bastards who want to drag you and the entire Birchep family down, they're the Barenbachs, aren't they? Those rotten rich folks. Fernan cursed. Damn it! How dare you talk about a senior like that? You little brat! Suddenly someone called his name loudly. Fernan! He jolted awake. So it was just a dream. Luina asked worriedly, are you okay? You suddenly fainted. How are you feeling now? Fernan sat up and replied, I'm fine, really. Did I faint? Professor Rosalia advised Fernan, perhaps you should go to the infirmary. You may have overexerted yourself with an ability you're not familiar with. I remember him looking worried. But that was the moment A in Amiens began to see me as his enemy. I still recall the pained look on his face, along with his resentful words, damn those rotten rich kids. He really is a hopeless romantic. But why do I have another prophecy? It's all about Luina. Is it showing me what's about to happen? If that's the case, then the name that appeared in the prophecy Enzomalos, one of the 72 demons? Is he really going to descend upon this world? And in the near future, class ended, and an exhausted Fernan walked out of the school gates. Hai was already waiting by the carriage. He said cheerfully, well done, young master. I heard you took first place. As Fernan climbed into the carriage, he replied, I used up a ton of energy. I'm dead tired. Hai said, you should get some sleep. I'll wake you when we arrive at Labrador Hall. The carriage quickly departed. Fernan couldn't sleep. He was lost in thought about the figure named Enzo Malus, ranked 72nd among the 72 demons. Black hair and black eyes, human in form with a snake coiled around his right arm. Even after searching through every book, this is all the information I could find. Well, the war with the demons was 1,000 years ago, so it's understandable that there's no information left. But in this day and age, the existence of demons is considered a myth. 1,000 years ago, they were completely annihilated by the first emperor, and they haven't appeared in this world since. Besides, even without any information, Ain could handle it all, so it's not too worrying. However, the problem is, Luina will be severely injured in the battle with Enzo Malus. Fernan hesitated, wondering if he should tell her. No. Even if I told her, would she believe me? I tried to bring it up once before. That day, after a class ended, Luina asked, Fernan, are you really okay? Yes, he replied. I'm fine. More importantly, Luina, do you believe in the existence of demons? The girl looked surprised. Why are you suddenly asking about something as weird as demons? Fernan said sternly. Just answer me. Do you believe in them or not? Luina replied, of course I believe in them. This empire was founded after defeating the demons after all. Fernan pressed on. Then what if I told you that demons still exist in this land? Luina didn't answer. She suddenly asked, "Fanon, did you hit your head during practice?" He turned and walked away, thinking to himself, "Forget it, she thinks I'm crazy." Fanon suddenly had an idea. "If I can find some kind of proof of the demon's existence, maybe I could convince everyone." After thinking for a moment, he remembered. Ah, that's right. Exactly 1 month from today, during a sparring session for the first-year night class, A and Amian will defeat Vaison Calendar, the second-ranked student. From then on, no one in the academy will be able to match A in. For all the praise the victor receives, the loser's loss is magnified tenfold. The prophecy mentioned Luina's assessment. I trusted him because of the calendar name, because of his reputation, his honor, and I misjudged him completely. In the end, even the unwavering support he had behind him was all gone. Possessed by a demon, Vaison lost everything. His hatred for A and Amian began to smolder, and it was through that crack that a demon slipped in. Fanon confirmed, "This is the first time a demon appears, even if indirectly. If I can use this event, then it will be much easier to convince people and get their help. And then I'll have clear proof. I can use that as a foundation to expand my plans. The problem is, I don't know when, or where, or how he'll be possessed." Thinking about this, Fanon grew frustrated. Why didn't this part of the vision show itself to me when the time comes? Will it appear on its own, or do I have to meet some condition? What a pain. In his dorm room, A.N. read the news. The front page reported an incident during the joint class for second-year knights and mages. Could it be that Fanon Bellenbach has been hiding his true strength? Luina Broshep and Fanon Bellenbach. How did those two ever become a pair? He exclaimed, "Truly worthy of the Bellenbach name." Gott remarked, "No matter what, Broshep is still Broshep. Even if they've lost their military power, it's thanks to the Brosheps that the flashy Bellenbach name is finally taking action." A.N. smiled. "You seem to quite like the Broshep family, don't you? Even as you hate the Bellenbachs." Gott scowled and snapped, "Don't you dare compare those two families. The only knights who could stand alongside me and the former emperor on the battlefield were from the Broshep family. Of course, these days people praise the Bellenbachs more. Times have changed." "Old general," he replied. "That's why this is a degenerate age. If it weren't for their war treasury during the 1,000-Year War, I would have never gotten involved with those new nobles." An idea just flashed in Gatner's mind. "That's right, Go ask that kid for some money. Your gear is looking all tattered." Ayan was a little confused. "What, that's so sudden?" Gatner replied, "That Fernan guy. Hasn't he been unusually kind to you?" Ayan corrected him, "It's Fernan." Gatner insisted, "Whatever. The Balin Bucks definitely want to establish a relationship with House Amian. The Balin Bucks never say what they want directly. They'll build your trust, make you lower your guard, and then finally rope you in." Ain asked back, "You mean Fernan?" "Approached me with impure motives, but my family has already fallen into ruin." "What could he possibly want from me?" Gatner yelled. "Why are you so self-deprecating? Besides, his motives don't matter. What's important is that we can take advantage of him." Ain hesitated. "But I don't think Fernan is being kind just because he wants something." Gatner was startled. "What?" Ain recalled a fond memory. "When I first met him, that senior was the one who gave me medicine when I was injured by a monster. There was absolutely no calculation in his eyes back then. He was genuinely worried about me." He told Gatner, "Asking a person like that for money, there's really no honor in it. Trust isn't something that can be bought with money." Gatner trembled with anger. "You are such an infuriating child. Even the late emperor used to say that having a wealthy sponsor backing you is incredibly reassuring, you know. Don't tell me you're siding with him just because he treated you to one meal." As he spoke, he threw himself into kneading the dough, forcing Ain to block the splatters with a newspaper. Gatner warned, "The Balin Bucks aren't the type to be nice just for the sake of it. Stop arguing already. Just go see him now. He'll definitely give you money as if he's been waiting for you to ask." Ain put on his coat and went to Fernan's dormitory, but he was stopped at the gate. Ain felt a little awkward. "Can't I see him now?" The attendant explained, "Young Master Fernan is very busy managing his family's merchant guild while also attending his studies. It's difficult to arrange a time without a prior appointment." Ain said, If that's the case, could you please inform him that it is not just any guest but Ein Amian who has come in person?" A moment later, the attendant reported back. "I told him that the young master from the house of Amian has arrived, but he says he's busy at the moment and asks that you please leave." Ain was bewildered. Is that so? I understand." He left quickly. Ain said to Gatner, "You said he'd give me money as if he were waiting for me. He's so busy and I just went and bothered him." Gatner replied, "That's not right. This is too strange. Fernan Balin Buck would never react like this." Fernan stood on a balcony above, looking down. "How surprising. I thought this bait wouldn't be tempting enough. I never expected him to initiate contact so soon." The attendant opened the door and entered the room. He said, "As you instructed, sir, I have sent Ein Amian away." Fernan replied, Good work." The attendant asked, "But you've been monitoring Ein Amian so closely. Why let him go so easily, especially after you went to check his class schedule?" Fernan explained, "For him to come find me this quickly is indeed a bit strange. Many people seek out the house of Balin Buck, but all of their motives are the same. Perhaps Ain is no different. But that's precisely what I find so strange. He's not the type to easily ask others for help. I have a feeling he didn't really want to come this time. Once I'm certain he has placed his trust in me, it won't be too late to lure him in." The attendant looked confused. "Do you really need to go to such lengths?" "For the descendant of a fallen imperial house." Fernan picked up his teacup, took a sip, and then said, "Ain possesses outstanding qualities. If I can get him completely on my side, he will surely be a very valuable asset." The attendant picked up the teapot and refilled the cup. "But if you just let him go like that, won't you lose your chance?" Fernan mused. "Of course, I'll leave an opening for him." He ordered the attendant, "Go to the main family's warehouse and bring all of the elixirs here for Ain." The attendant was shocked. "What?" "The elixirs in the Duke's warehouse are all extremely precious and expensive items. If you give him something that valuable, and it has no effect, the loss will be enormous," Fernan said. "Then I'll simply have to give him something even more expensive. In this world, there is nothing that can't be bought with money. If you haven't been able to buy it, it just means you haven't offered enough money." Scene changed to the DeBesta dormitory area, too. Someone brings something for Ain. After he leaves, Gator asks, "Did you meet the steward from House Bellenbark? What about it? Did he come to apologize for not letting you in?" He replied, "No. He just left this box and a note, and then he was gone." Gator examined it for a moment, then said, "An apology letter. For someone from House Bellenbark, I'd say that's pretty conscientious of them. Let me see what he wrote. Ha ha ha, this is a divine elixir I prepared just for you. Please accept it. Signed, Senior Farron." After reading, Gator exploded. "What the... This bastard ends every sentence with senior. Is he implying that a senior ranks even higher than the royal family?" Ain mumbled, "It's fine." He opened the box. Ain's eyes suddenly went wide. "This is..." Gator quickly leaned in closer. What is it? Is something wrong?" He was stunned. "This is the heart of a holy bird. My God. The holy bird is a divine creature that represents light, an elixir extracted from its heart. This is the perfect kind. To synergize with the Amon family's light swordsmanship." Gator laughed gleefully. "That Farron fellow really is arrogant to the bone. See, you didn't get any money. But in the end, it was worth it for you to go see him, wasn't it?" Ain was deeply moved. "Senior Farron, I never imagined you would value someone as useless as me this much. But I must work even harder so as not to disappoint my senior's expectations." Seeing him so emotional, Gator reminded him, "Hey, you idiot, it's not what you think." The next morning, Farron sat on a chair reading a report. He asked, "So what are the results?" Hai reported, "Ein Aman has defeated Vezon Calendar. Calendar's sword technique was slightly superior, but Amon's spiritual energy was completely overwhelming." Farron just replied nonchalantly, "Oh, is that so?" He thought to himself, but the prophecy said he would win by a narrow margin. Could it be that Ain Kid already used the elixir? Hai guessed. "Perhaps it was thanks to the elixir you gave him, sir." Farron whistled. "It probably had some effect." The man asked again, "So you mean even without the elixir, Amon could still have won?" Farron turned the page of the report and gave an ambiguous answer. "Who can say for sure?" he thought to himself, but just as the prophecy foretold. Ain defeated Vezon, and soon Vezon will be possessed by a demon. This is the perfect opportunity to find proof that demons still exist. He instructed Hai, "For now continue to monitor Vezon." "Calendar?" He was a bit surprised. "Vezon calendar, meaning we're not monitoring Amon." Farron said, "Correct. Follow the places Vazon goes. I want to find out how the demon seduces him, the people he interacts with, and their conversations." Hai was confused. Calendar, not Amon. Farron was curious. "A demon that disappeared for 1,000 years has suddenly reappeared in this world. How? I want to know everything." Detailed information about Vaison was continuously reported, starting with the smallest actions. Vaison woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. Afterwards, he went to get his hair done at the Platinum Salon. Vaison exchanged his sword in the city, then clutched his stomach and ran straight to the bathroom. Vaison was practicing at the training grounds, then clutched his stomach and ran to the bathroom again. Farron was taking his midterm exam. The subject was Introduction to Spatial Magic. On the board, a large sign read, Use of textbooks permitted. Anti-cheating magic is always active. He finished the test very quickly. While his classmates were still scratching their heads, he thought, It's been 2 weeks since I started monitoring Vaison, but the scary thing is absolutely nothing has happened. But this isn't right at all. That evening, Farron sat on his bed reading the activity report on Vaison. Something major should have happened by now. But why is this guy always running off to the bathroom? Is that kid high slacking off? Or was the part of the prophecy about Vaison being possessed wrong? He took a pen and jotted down the main points. Vaison the toilet addict, irritable bowel syndrome, stress, obviously caused by Ain. Farron speculated, if the most important part of the prophecy about the demon is wrong, then I might have to reconsider this prophecy's reliability. After his defeat to Ain, Vaison, who always gritted his teeth in anger, finally met Ain again during the midterm exam. Vaison charged straight at Ain. The outcome of that match was already decided. One who had already been defeated by Ain could not turn the tables. Ain wasn't careless. Furthermore, he had Gadarin Fafanfan, the best professor, by his side. Ain left Gadarin by me, the fallen Vaison, behind him, completely unaware that demonic energy had begun to creep into Vaison's body and mind, slowly consuming him. A jolt ran through his head. Farron sat up with a start. He looked around and wondered, What the? It's morning already, I must have fallen asleep. Farron held his forehead and sighed. Now I'm even dreaming about the prophecy. He got out of bed, thinking to himself, but at least I now know the exact moment Vaison gets possessed. It's after he loses to Ain again in the exam. The midterm, Farron mumbled. The date for the first-year swordsmanship department's practical midterm exam isn't that today? Damn it, the prophecy says Ain fights him during the exam. From the very beginning, Vaison charges at Ain, but the outcome is already set, defeating a seemingly impossible opponent. Ain didn't win by a fluke. He has Gadarin Fafazan as his instructor. It all makes perfect sense now. Zwei opened the door, entered the room, and asked in surprise, Young master, you're up early? You should have some breakfast, sir. Fuang An was standing by his desk, examining his weapons. When he didn't answer, Zwei repeated, Young master, what are you planning to do now? Fuang An suddenly said, Oh, Zwei, perfect timing. I'm planning to go observe the first-year night department's midterm exam. I need an escort, so come with me. Zwei replied, I've been summoned back to the Duke's Manor. I have to head back there soon. He muttered, Damn it, why today of all days? Then I'll go with someone else. Zwei asked, Someone else who, sir? You don't have any friends at the academy. He thought to himself. With that stuck-up attitude of his, how could he possibly have any friends? How could he have friends? Yes, I do, Fuang An snapped, annoyed. He suddenly remembered that he did in fact have a friend, one he had bought with money. Luina stood before his door with her arms crossed, asking in surprise, You need an escort just to get a spiritual potion. It's exam season. Do you really have to go today? Fuang An looked rushed. If I delay, the potion's effectiveness will decrease, so I have to go now. Luina hesitated. But I'm busy studying for my exams. He immediately made a condition. If you go with me, I'll waive the interest on your debt for a few months after graduation. Before he could say another word, the girl immediately replied, Let's go. As soon as they were outside in the courtyard, Luina asked, So where are we going? Fuang An replied, The Northern Mountains. The girl yelled, What, that's where the first years are having their midterm exam right now. If an upperclassman trespasses there without permission, we could be disciplined for violating the rules. He said nonchalantly, There's nothing in this world that money can't buy. Luina raised an eyebrow. You're talking big like that. Don't tell me you've already bribed someone. Then she answered her own question. The person you bribed was obviously Professor Grat. What else could it be so shameless? Fuang An looked pleased. Professor Grat is so flexible, I really like him. Unexpectedly, Luina said, I'm going back to the dorm. Fuang An froze. He yelled, What now? We're almost there. I told you no one will find out. We won't get punished. You're a knight. Are you really going back on your word? Luina replied in a cold voice. It's not that, I forgot to bring my sword. Watching the girl hum a tune and skip back inside, he let out a sigh of relief. Oh, so that's it. Go get it quickly. The two of them quickly disguised themselves and entered the northern mountains. We have to stay hidden so the professors and teaching assistants don't spot us. Fuang An whispered, Right. Even though I really did bribe Professor Grat, wandering around openly would still be a big problem, Luina said, exasperated. So you knew it was a problem and did it anyway. He replied, That's right. You're such a good little kid. Keep living like that. She was completely speechless with this guy. Fuang An opened the map. Hold on. Let me check the map to see where we need to go. He thought to himself. Ain is currently ranked 2nd in the department. Right. Number 2 is... here he is. He realized that he was very close to Vasan, the one ranked 3rd. Could it be that those two have already clashed? I have to hurry. Fuang An crept behind some bushes. He said in a low voice, This way, hurry up. Luina suddenly remembered, Hey, about this map. Isn't this a professor's map? A student holding a professor's map is a violation of the rules. Just how much did you bribe Professor Grat, huh? Hearing her complain constantly, Fuang An suddenly thought, Was it a mistake to bring this girl along? She just needed to follow me quietly. Suddenly, he heard a strange sound. Luina exclaimed, Wasn't that the sound of a monster just now? Fuang An worried silently, Don't tell me it's over there. A scream rang out, Ah! Luina shot to her feet. That's where the first-year students are. I have to go check it out. He yelled, What? Wait, Luina, it's dangerous to go alone. Stop! But the girl had already dashed off. But Fuang An had no other choice but to follow Luina. The two of them quickly found a few first-year students. Luina knelt down to examine one. He's unconscious. It looks like he was attacked by a monster. Thanks to the defensive magic on the map, he's not injured at all, but something's very strange. The monsters in this area aren't usually this aggressive. Fuang An gritted his teeth. Damn it. This is starting sooner than I predicted. I haven't even had a chance to check on Vasan's condition yet. Another roar echoed, and Luina and Fuang An looked up at the sky. Feeling the pressure growing stronger and stronger, Luina was a little scared. Fuang An, what in the world is going on? An explosion, boom, 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 erupted right in front of them. Luina cried out, Where are we? She suddenly noticed a movement behind them. The sound of footsteps, thump, 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 ran towards them. A giant pig-headed monster holding a large wooden club was charging at them. Luina immediately drew her sword and took the offensive. A single sharp slash severed its arm. Blood spurted everywhere as the severed arm fell to the ground. The monster continued its attack. Luina was surprised. Why wasn't it stopping? Its arm had been cut off. The pig-headed monster, its two eyes glowing red, charged straight at Luina. Just then, the ground suddenly shook, and sharp spikes of rock shot up, piercing the monster. Funan was still casting his spell. The earth beneath continued to form into sharp drills. The magic staff in his hand glowed brightly as Funan launched them straight at the pig-headed monster. Thwack, thwack, thwack! A volley of projectiles embedded themselves in its back. Luina jumped to one side to dodge the attack. She kicked off a large tree trunk as the pig-headed monster immediately gave chase. Luina leaped high into the air as the monster's giant body crashed forward, sending a tree trunk crashing down. Luina landed on the ground next to Funan. She asked frantically, What in the world is that thing? He replied, It's called a berserker. It doesn't feel pain anymore. Berserker monsters are on a completely different level than normal ones. They're obsessed with killing every living thing they see. The only way to kill them is to chop off their heads, Luina asked. But why did the monster suddenly go berserk like that? Funan remembered the prophecy mentioning monsters across the land going wild because of a demon. But while the professors and teaching assistants were busy dealing with the sudden anomaly, Vaesen had used the demonic power he'd obtained to attack Ain. And Ain, pushed to his absolute limit, finally awakened. But it's just like in the plays. Whenever the main character is in a crisis, all the other problems seem to pile on at once. And now, it's exactly the same. Thinking this, Funan couldn't help but smile. Seeing this, Luina snapped, I asked you why the monster went berserk. Why are you smiling? Do you find this funny? Is this situation amusing to you? Funan raised his magic staff. He began to cast a spell and said softly, Luina, for now, let's just focus on taking down this persistent pest. She thought to herself, he definitely knows something. The map floating in the air slowly vanished. Vazan, kneeling on the ground, muttered, Again, you again, ein Amian. Ayn stood before him, his hand firmly on the hilt of his sword. He turned to leave, but Vezon suddenly spoke. "You think this is over?" "It's not." "No," Ayn asserted. "It's over. The match is decided. The loser is you, Vaesen. You've lost." Hearing these words, Vaesen was deeply shaken. I have to win. I have to win. He remembered the look on Lu's face when he'd said, "Sorry if my expectations were a bit too high." "There's no need to apologize." Vaesen was tormented. "I've failed the prince's expectations. I have to win. I have to win. The head of House Calendar will surely mock me. Letting that pathetic whelp get the better of you," Vaesen lamented. "I've failed my family's expectations as well. If I lose this, I could lose my position as the heir." At this point, only one phrase repeated in his mind: "I must win. I must win. I must win." He clenched his hands into fists. Large veins bulged on his skin, twitching uncontrollably. Vaesen told himself, "I have to defeat him." Using the last of his strength, Vaesen charged forward, screaming, "Stop! Right there, Ein Amien!" Ayn watched him with a look of pure confidence. But by now, Vazen's aura was just a faint flicker. Ayn coldly unleashed a flurry of strikes. The flash of his blade drew straight, sharp lines across the air, and Vaesen fell to the ground. He lay motionless. Gashner snapped, "Why is it that every time he sees you, that guy charges in like he has a death wish? He's so weak, yet he can't even accept defeat. He's a coward, a disgrace to the spirit of a knight." "Kill him," Ayn replied. "I can't." Gashner raged. "If you let him live, he'll disgrace the honor of all knights." Ayn explained, "This isn't a real battle. It's just an exam. Please say something that makes a little sense. If I leave him here, a teaching assistant will come and get him soon." Back to Luina and Funan's fight with the berserker. The two of them had taken it down without much trouble. He felt that it wasn't actually that strong. Luina thought for a moment, then made a suggestion to Funan. "I think we should give up on the spiritual herb. Let's leave this to the professors and the TAs and get out of here." He answered casually, "We can't. I'm not giving up. I'll just have to break through that swarm of monsters and head west." Seeing how reckless Funan was, she shouted, "Are you completely out of your mind?" Pulling his cloak tight, he said, "Out of my mind, you're the one who just took down one of those berserk monsters. You should know by now. They might be persistent, but they're not impossible to kill." Luina suddenly asked, "Did you somehow predict this was going to happen? Is that why you said you needed an escort?" He was a little flustered, but still answered firmly no. How could I have possibly predicted this? But she was still worried. "It doesn't matter. Either way, this feels wrong. Is some spiritual herb really more important than our lives?" To her surprise, Funan replied without hesitation, "Of course it is. The spiritual herb is more important than my life." And with that, he took off running. Luina flew into a rage. "That Funan, he's insane!" But she immediately ran after him, unable to let him go alone. The two of them reached a clearing in the forest. Luina asked, "Is this it? Is this where the spiritual herb is?" "Yeah," Funan replied. He scanned the area for a moment and thought to himself, "Damn it. It looks like the fight with Ayn is already over. I'm too late." Luina spotted someone lying motionless on the ground and called out to Funan. "Hey, someone's unconscious over there." He quickly warned her, "Luina, wait, don't get any closer." But Luina didn't listen. She walked over and turned the young man over. Seeing the familiar face, Luina was a little surprised. "Huh, Vaesen Calendar. I remember him being quite strong. Who could have done this to him?" She checks his pulse and says, "Looks like he passed out during a fight. We have to help him up. Come on, give me a hand." Fanan refuses. "No way. Get away from Vaesen now." Luina looks at him frustrated and says, "Get away. Are you saying we should just leave him here? What if some rampaging monster stumbles upon him? The least we could do is pull him somewhere safe." Just then, Vaesen slowly gets to his feet. Luina quickly senses that something is wrong. She immediately takes a few steps back, her face filled with horror. "What is this? This energy?" Vazen's eyes had become soulless, his pupils radiating a strange, chillingly sinister aura. Luina cries out, "I've never felt any kind of energy like this." Vaesen Calendar. "No. Is that really Calendar?" Fanan replies, "It's demonic energy." Luina is stunned. "Huh, demonic energy. You mean, like the dark aura that demons emit?" He confirms that's right, Vaesen Calendar. That bastard's been possessed by a demon. The two of them stare at Vaesen. He really isn't human anymore. Fanan thinks to himself, "Something feels wrong." According to the prophecy, Vaesen was supposed to attack Ayn right after being possessed. But it looks like his target has changed. Luina suddenly asks, Are you telling me a demon has taken over Kalender's body and returned to this world? How could you possibly know that? He doesn't seem to hear her. Fanan's face is filled with worry. Look into his eyes. He's completely lost his mind.